gunsmithing.com. At their websites.com. It's 11:59 at Radio Free America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the walls. The chair is against the walls. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And welcome everybody to our Daily Gun Show. Going to be live every weeknight at midnight Eastern, and we talk about guns for an hour. So let me know how the sound is. I got a lot of fans going. It's 100 today. Somehow it was 100 with complete cloud cover, so there's humidity. So I know some people know what humidity's like. We rarely get it. We had humidity today. Anyhow, so we just got done doing a live show chatting about the 2A patch batch, a project we got going on. It's an opportunity to get Second Amendment organizations together that would normally not deal with each other or be doing anything together. And it's also a learning situation for me, Clover, Tony Simon, and others that are attempting to do that, get everybody working together and stuff. So anyway, had a chat earlier today. All right, thanks for the feedback there. Had a chat earlier today, and then did some stuff. Got this one started up. So I haven't been paying attention if other stuff's going on. There's 3 people watching this one, so let's just assume I'm being corked. Probably being corked by somebody, some sons of bitches. But we throw the link out there. This isn't really just a conversation. So if you want to join in, feel free. You're encouraged to be part of the conversation. Or no. We're going to chat tonight about the gunsmithing schools that I discovered, or at least I went through. I guess discovered some of them. Some sons of bitches. But we throw the link out there. Sons of bitches. Find the right tab here. Oh, I'm not even screen sharing yet. So now we'll screen share by clicking that button and that button and that button all together in sequence. And now we're screen share. So I'm gonna close my Patreon, post it over to Patreon. I guess I didn't post a link again, but if you're out there, here's the link right here. Just jump in. So this is on the gunshopguide.com site where we track all the gun shops we visited, and at some point gun shops, gun ranges are basically the same thing. So we added gun ranges and started visiting museums, so added museums here. And that was a bit of a decision. Could have put them over on Minuteman University just as easy, but put them here. And then maybe because of the NRA Museum. The NRA Museum is a range and a museum in Virginia. It's also a range and a museum in New Mexico. And I wonder if that Bass Pro has a range in Missouri. It might. So all 3 of their ranges, or all 3 of their museums might be ranges. Anyhow, so this is where I just started putting some things, and as I've been keep getting research done for the 50 States of 2A book, gunsmithing schools is one of the things that I wanted to put in there. Now, I was aware of a couple of these, so Barbecue just jumped in. What do you know about gunsmithing schools? You ever paid attention to them?
I actually attended one.
Oh yeah, which one?
It was just an online school. I'll preface that first. But have you ever heard of Penn Foster? They have a lot of different programs, but one of their programs is a online gunsmithing program. And honestly, I don't think it's that bad. If you're somebody with any mechanical abilities, then it gives you a lot of book knowledge. And now, actually, I believe the program has a lot of videos to it too that you can watch online and learn their things. But for the price that they charge, like I said, it's a lot of a lot of good book knowledge, and then it's things that you can just start applying to working on your own firearms. And then there's also, I don't know if you have this one. There's one in Pittsburgh, PA, also, which I didn't ever know about that one until a few years after I had attended Penn Foster. But that one's actually a hands-on. You go. I think they actually by the end of the course build their own rifle or something like that.
Are you talking about Avalon, Pennsylvania? Pennsylvania Gunsmith School?
Avalon down by Philly. This one's actually in Pittsburgh, from what I understand. Let me go double check real quick.
Yeah, figure out the name of it. I do have the Pennsylvania one you're talking about. Let's go back to here, Gunsmith Schools. I did have the Pennsylvania one you talked about, and let's see, Lenoir is not there. I don't remember where Lenoir is. It is North Carolina, so that's not it. So let's see, we've got LCC is California, Trinidad is Colorado, Colorado School of Trades is ironically Colorado, and then you got Pennsylvania Gunsmith School, but like I say, that's in Avalon, I think. You got Piedmont Technical College, which is in North Carolina? South Carolina. So Piedmont Tech is in South Carolina. And then over here you got Piedmont Community College. And just to be annoying, that's in North Carolina. So Carolina's making it difficult for everybody always. And then you got Yavapai. That one is in Prescott, Arizona. You got Lenoir, which we just looked at. Which would I say that was? Also North Carolina. So there's two in North Carolina now. We got Murray State, Oklahoma. We got Pine Technical, Minnesota. And then we got Montgomery. That's like somewhere south. North Carolina again. Is that three of them in North Carolina? Holy crap. What's going on in North Carolina and guns? Are they paranoid there or what? And then Piedmont, like I say, that's the North Carolina one, I think. AGI, California. Penn Foster, that's Pennsylvania, right? Scranton. That one's in Scranton.
Yep.
And then you got DI, I guess that's in Arizona. You got MGS, I think that's Delaware. Oh, amazing, a place that there's no business tax. And then Black River is in Arkansas. Just got approved January 31st, 2020, and then COVID happened. So hopefully this one was about to happen. I don't know if it ever will, but we'll find out. So anyway, those are the ones I know of, but no, none in Pittsburgh.
I've looked up the Pittsburgh one. It is the Avalon. I was always told from a couple of what's that?
So the one I'm thinking about is Pennsylvania Gunsmith School.
Yep. I was always told the name was Pittsburgh Gunsmith School, but you know, the guys that went there, that was years ago. Also, for all I know, they could have changed it.
Some of them might have moved. I don't think this one told me, but it did not tell me. And it's not little. Does it have the size there? I guess not. So one of the things it's just like trying to buy a gun safe. One of the things that you'll find when you go to buy a gun safe is that none of them are consistent. One of them will use, like I think Fort Knox uses, what's the name of that? Like some sort of like accredited Westinghouse, whatever, safety sticker. And then the next one, and that uses like 90 minutes at so many Fahrenheit. Well, the next one will use so many seconds at so-and-so centigrade. So now all of a sudden you got to do stupid conversion math, right? Like they sneak around by not using the same metrics, the same conversion or the same units of measurement. And then you'll get somebody who comes along and does it in calories and some other like joules or something. Like they'll just come up and make up crazy stuff. So you get the same kind of thing, inconsistency with so far everything I've researched. Those gun shops, they don't have any format that they make their websites in, or they deliver their information or their history. The museum, same way. Those gunsmithing schools had to discover what they are, where they are, and then about them, right? And some of them are proud of their history, and others don't bother or don't bring it up, I guess. But that's part of the fun, I guess, of all this. So going through it, these are in chronological order. So it starts out with this one from California, then Trinidad. We look at them here. They start out in like 1940s. So you think about after the war, there's all these guys that know stuff, and there's no internet yet. This is just before the internet. So they didn't have internet, but they could write stuff down and take pictures and print stuff on, and publish mail order, or what they call distance learning things. So I think you get some of them start that far back doing stuff like that, but then some of these others, they just start being trade schools, so that you get out of high school and you start learning trades, right? So a lot of them like refrigeration, typing, and this and that and the other thing, and then gunsmithing. And then that's where they come from, right? They come from that like common source or whatever, but then some of them exceed, right? Some of them are good, and then you start getting into the premier gunsmith. So that's where I think I'm learning how it plays out. So Lassen Community College is a small college in California, and it has, I have the guy's name. It has a gunsmith working there who's ends up being pretty famous gunsmith, to the level where like Smith and Wesson sends their guns to him on a contract. And then, he's like a professional gunsmith, and he's at this college teaching classes to getting his experience across and his flavor, I guess. So in other words, when you listen, because he's gone now, but if you listen to the people talk about some of these schools that still exist, I don't know about schools that came and went. Schools that still exist, though, you hear people talk about, like, I learned from this guy, and not only did he teach you how to fix a gun, but maybe this guy was teaching you how the gun worked, so that not only were you learning how to fix the part, but how to diagnose in a gun that's failing, or how to do preventive maintenance. All the different nuance that you would learn from experience. He's able to get that information across. So in other words, he spawns good gunsmiths, while other schools just spawn tradesmen. Some of these schools are creating competent like gunsmiths and stuff. So that one comes up later. So this one is one of the first ones, I guess the first one. This one calls itself the first one. So I don't know if there's anybody that's ever put any tests to that, if this was really 1945 or not. This is the numbers that I didn't make them up. There's one or two that I had to make up because there's no actual number written. But most of these are numbers that they suggest, this is their start date or whatever. So anyway, you get the California one, you get this one in Southern Colorado. I don't know where this one is. I think it's up in Denver. And this one starts out, I think Lakewood is around Denver. This one starts out as a trade school, but then they're so good at gunsmithing, at some point they just, even though they still call themselves School of Trades, they just are exclusively gunsmithing. And 20,000 square foot building, that's one of the things I'm going to try to, I guess I was kind of alluding to earlier, that these things aren't consistent. So at first I figured out what they all are. Then I figured out in what order they should be, like when they were built or what. And then next I'm going to try to compare the size of the facility and the degrees, or what they offer, right? Because some of them offer like, we'll get into it here. So we got Colorado, we got Pennsylvania, one we just talked about. We got Piedmont, which is a community college in North Carolina, South Carolina. And then you got Yakubai out here in Arizona. You got this one, which I barely know about. Murray is a pretty what do you call it, prestigious one? Oh, another thing is how many students they take. Like some of them like take up to 100 students, right? Others take like 12. So that's a big difference in difficulty or prestige or whatever you want to call, amongst like alumni or whatever. You got Pine up in Minnesota, you got Montgomery, and then Piedmont. And these are pretty much the schools that exist that like have buildings and, are either a part of an existing place or just they are themselves like an existing place. But now you get to AGI. How you've heard of AGI before? American Gunsmith Institute, seen this logo before?
Yep.
So these are like the back of the magazines you used to be able to buy the books, and then it was like the VHS tapes, and then it was now it's online stuff. So it turns out, this
I've actually got a diploma from Penn Foster.
From Penn Foster also. So both of you guys do.
I've got a gunsmithing diploma from Penn Foster.
So you're like, even though
sweet, I didn't know what you did.
So Night Strike is like, even though I live in South Carolina, where Lenore Community College. Right?
Lenore is nowhere near me.
No, that's North Carolina. One of these is in South Carolina. Is it Murray? No.
But it's on the other side of the state, so that's the
Piedmont Community College. Is that the one? No, it's Piedmont Technical College.
It's on the other side of the state, so I couldn't go to that one.
But you heard about that one then?
Yeah, I've heard about it. I wanted to go to that one, but it was on the other side of the state. So,
but that's an actual place. You got to go to it. You're the one you're talking about, remote.
Mine was all online correspondence. Yeah.
So when you get to wherever I was at, is where you get to the end of the physical places that exist. And I even included, like I say, these trade schools, community colleges that offer it, because there's not that many, I guess, and I think that's all of them. But then you get to AGI, and I knew about AGI from the magazines. And then when the internet first started up, I was talking about this, I think, on the other show before. When I first started up doing stuff online and things, doing gun websites and stuff, that was way before YouTube. So the way you made money is you'd walk into a store and say, hey, I do stuff online. You want to have your name online? I'll do stuff and put your name on it and you pay me. And it'd be like, okay. Or they'd be like, hell no, right? And that was not fun. You had to go walk around being a salesman all the damn time instead of doing stuff online. So at some point, AGI, who had already been doing, video and whatnot, they were figuring out the internet. Oh, you know what it was? I went to, I can't remember what year, a long, long time ago. So maybe even 2005 or 6 even, I think it's SHOT Show. I was there as media, and AGI was there, had a booth, and it was like, hey, you want to sell our VHS tapes and our DVDs? It was like we have DVDs now kind of shit. Like, do you want to sell our DVDs at your store? That's what it was. And if you...
That was AGI, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm talking about AGI. So this was my first experience after seeing them in the magazines and stuff. I see them at SHOT Show, and they're set up, with like displays, and they're basically, I forget the deal, but it was like you buy, I forget, like let's say 24 or 100 DVDs, and basically the fun was you get to pick which one. So it's not like they just you could just choose an assortment, but you didn't have to. So if you had a store that was going to sell like AKs and AR-15 videos, you didn't have to buy a bunch of lever action stuff, and vice versa. If you had a shop that was going to sell revolvers, you didn't have to buy a bunch of stuff you weren't going to sell. And I thought that was kind of cool or whatever. So anyway, at some point, I don't think, SHOT Show was a lot different back then, and we were media. So if you walked up somewhere, you couldn't just do whatever. You were media. So a lot of times they wouldn't even show you prices and stuff. Like they would be like, oh, you're media, and they would pull the price guide away from you. So we went over to AGI, and we were like, hey, what if we sold your videos on our websites? And that was kind of before or at the beginning of affiliates. There was certainly no like system in place. So it was more like, yeah, you buy a bunch of videos off of me for wholesale, and then, somebody buys one, you put it in the mail and send it to them. So I had a client who, back in the olden days when we did website stuff, I had a client who I don't know what they did. They would, how Pawnery is always selling those big stacks of DVD burners and stuff? This guy would buy those DVD burner things like that, and you would send him like some kind of video or something, and he would duplicate it 1 million times and send 100 of them back to you. He was some guy in Florida doing that. So I talked to him and said, hey, how do I send DVDs? So he hooked me up and got me a whole bunch of these like mailers, which was a big deal back in the time to like, you know, this is before Blockbuster and shit, like how to get a DVD through the mail. So he hooked me up with these like inexpensive piece of paper mailer thingies. And then I went to AGI and bought, I don't remember, I think I bought like $300 worth of DVDs. And that was like, you know, I felt like Miami Vice or some shit. I was like, holy crap, I'm dealing in hundreds of dollars worth of stuff online now, right? And then, anyway, long story short, I sold them all. I kept a couple of DVDs just, you know, to have like an AK video. But, you know, AGI was gunsmithing videos. So each of the DVDs would be like a course. Some of the more extensive guns, you'd maybe need 2 or 3 DVDs even for like maybe a lever action series or something, or the revolvers, I think. You know, those were like 3 DVDs. But anyway, that was kind of neat. So they've been around for a long time. So it turns out that the guy who started the thing was a gunsmith, and he had gone to LCC, Layson Community College, or Layson College, I think they called it back then. And the gunsmith there was just super good. So when he graduated, he went to work for that gunsmith. And he worked for him for a while, and I think he did other things, but you know, they kept in touch or whatever. Now, the guy who was that gunsmith that we're talking about that's so good was getting close to retirement, and everybody was like, well, you know, you can have the tools and the curriculum and everything, but you know, you teaching and you offering all this knowledge is what people come here for. So basically this was whatever year this was, 1993. So I guess that was right about when they figured, hey, why don't we get a VCR tape, and why don't we get somebody who knows how to film, and what if you just recorded all of your classes? And that's what they started doing. So they just started recording all of this guy's classes. So imagine back in 90s, well, since 1945 to 1993, people were flocking to this school in order to learn from this guy because of his, you know, mastery and because of his ability to get information across. So then this other guy, one of his whatever students, decides, hey, let's film this so that we've got it forever and we don't lose all your experience and stuff. So that's where AGI comes from. So I never knew that. I just knew that AGI was an old guy who knew a lot about guns. I never realized he was a guy. They say when you look him up, he's fixed something like 250,000 guns. Like I say, he had a contract with Smith & Wesson and a whole bunch of other companies where if they had broken guns, they sent them to him. So you'd send a gun back to the factory, they'd send it to him. He would fix it, send it back, and then you'd get it back type of thing. So he was responsible for fixing like a good chunk of guns, period. And yeah, all of his experience and whatnot is what the AGI videos are. And then, of course, you know, they've elaborated on that since. But anyway, so that's kind of neat. So that was the beginning of the distance learning stuff. Now, I can't say the beginning because some of these other classes or some of these other curriculums or whatever have had distance learning, but that was the beginning of the video and all that kind of thing. Then you get that Penn Foster. So these others are what they call distance learning. So like that, where it was books or videos, you know, books back in the old days, but then videos and then DVDs and now online.
For me, it was a lot of books and a lot of videos and a lot of, test-based learning.
Yeah, I did a bunch of stuff when I was in Civil Air Patrol. I could take Army, what do they call, like, what do they call, I forget what they called them back then, but they would send correspondence courses, I guess. They would send, you'd pick off a bunch of books and send in this piece of paper with a bunch of check marks, and then you'd get a bunch of envelopes, and each envelope had like the book, the workbook, and then like the tests or whatever, and you'd send back the tests and keep the workbook. So I could basically take any of these. They were free. And I don't know what it was like in the military. I guess you could do them in the military too, that just to up train or just to get more abilities and credentials and stuff. So I was just taking these things by the dozen back in the day, but they were literally just like a magazine. And it was, you know, a bunch of information and then an open book test. So it was as simple as could be. It wasn't real complicated. It wasn't anywhere near as thorough as like a video. You know, it was like basically stick drawings or whatever next to each other. It was super basic. Anyway, so this is what evolved from that.
Yeah, when I did it, they sent me all the books in the mail for each program. Then I could actually take the test in the back of the book and mail it back to them, or I could just actually get online and take the test online, and then it would just automatically grade me and all that, and I wouldn't have to worry about it. So then I still.
All of my tests were online.
What years are we talking here?
My years would have been 09 to 2010.
Yeah, my years at Penn Foster was like 2015 to 2016.
So Night Strike's way older than Barbecue, but Barbecue went to school way before Night Strike and graduated from school way before Night Strike. Interesting. So the rest of these are all distance learning. I don't know if you guys know more of the story of Penn Foster. I know of it. I know that it's the way that it was described is that they have 50 internet-based training videos, and that was it, right? So what I looked at is AGI was divided up into like, I want to watch this video about lever actions, or I want to watch this video about AKs, and one of them might have been like assembling an AK and then like building one, and then another one might have been like armor work or like repairing an AK. So there might be videos like that. And then I think there must be some sort of course of instruction. If you take this, if you watch this many videos and answer some questions, you get some kind of certificate. Where some of these others are like going to school. Like you're going to take a class on this, you're going to take a class on that, you're going to take a class, you got to pass all these classes, and then you get so many credit hours, and then you get your degree. And then, like I say, they come from the schools. Like, you go to school in the morning, and as a class, there's an instructor, you got machines, you're sitting at a desk, that kind of thing. With these, though, is there, you guys have more to add than the 50? I mean, it was.
They had, when I did it, they had videos I had to go over. I had worksheets I had to do, and then I had to take the tests online. There was an assigned course instructor that if I needed to ask questions, all I had to do was just email them and ask questions and whatnot, and he would answer like within the day. Okay, and if I needed anything, all I had to do was just contact them. So it's not like they didn't help you whatsoever. It's just a lot of correspondence learning, as you said.
But in 2015, you had to wait for an email reply. You couldn't just go to like a chat little window.
I could call them. They had a phone number to call too. So.
Yeah, back when I did it, and I think the guy that was in charge of the course is actually the guy that wrote all the books on the course. When I attended, they didn't have the videos yet. It was like a year after I had finished the program that they finally got the videos, which the nice thing is, I'm pretty sure if I were to go to pennfoster.edu and tried to log in, I can still get into the entire curriculum if I wanted. And so I can actually go back and have access to those videos still as well.
Is it like was it like, okay, you said, is it just, what am I trying to say? Is it like an adult learning or whatever that's called, where you just take it for your own shits and giggles, or was there some sort of certificate or something you could take and say, hey, hire me because I have this from Penn Foster?
Yeah, they gave you a certificate of completion saying that you attended their gunsmithing program.
So then was it like you take this many, like there's 50 videos, you watch 25 and you get this level, you watch 50 and you get this level, or how did they make it a?
No, it was all or nothing.
Yeah, you had to complete everything, otherwise you didn't get your certificate.
So you guys both completed it?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, right on. Well done.
Yeah,
So
don't screen share it, but in the side chat I did link to my diploma.
So I've got to get mine out.
You get a piece of paper, you get an actual thing, you get a wall or whatever.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And so then it's just a matter of if you go to apply anywhere and say, hey, I've got this, whether they want to accept that you did online schooling, which, like I said, for a lot of it, it just comes down to, do you have any mechanical abilities? If you are somebody that looks at a screwdriver and putting a hole in your wall to hang a picture like it's rocket science, and you're just not going to want to go to this school, because while you're going to learn a lot of cool stuff, it's still going to be useless. But if you are one of those people that can look at a screwdriver and a wrench and, fix whatever the heck it is that you need to fix, then you're going to get a lot of good knowledge that could save you a lot of money. And I may or may not have made some money off of friends or family over the years, if things were broken that they needed fixed.
I'm here.
Well, in the future, when we have China money, a cashless society, with China money, there won't be an opportunity for you capitalists to work on the table and steal money from the mouths of your neighbors. But I understand that capitalists way back in the past like that. I understand.
I had no idea you were anti-capitalism.
Just paper money that allows the black market helping each other. That's what the state's for. If your neighbor's tails or if your neighbor's gun is broken, give it to the state. Give that gun to the state. Anyway, so you guys went to Penn Foster, and that is 50 videos, all or nothing. You get a degree. It's not like, okay, so we'll just keep going so that we can start comparing it. Because once you get to, all of these are fairly similar. There's a building, somebody who knew what they were doing was hired or started the whole thing. They offer their experience, and they've got tools, and some of them have really elaborate facilities with lots and lots of interesting tools, which I'm sure attracts students, right? Some of them are, like more like trade schools, where like they're just like, hey, we know that you can get a job, so let's get you what you need to get a piece of paper so that you are working, right? That's what all of these are, fairly straightforward. But once you get from here down, and these are chronologically, but it just happens that, after about Piedmont Community College in 1970, there was nothing except distance learning. Like, no, I'm not aware of any new gunsmithing school that's a physical place that exists, right? Except for this new one in Arkansas that just got approved in January of this year, but obviously it's chaos this year. So when we start looking at these, you've got AGI, which we explain like whatever. Now you guys said that you think the guy who kind of started the whole thing, and my guess is, based off of stuff that I can't really tell for sure, is that this must have happened in the late 90s, right around the 2000s. This school started, or at least the curriculum.
Well, yeah, the school is very old, but the gunsmithing curriculum, I think, is fairly new.
What I'll do sometimes is look, and it'll be like, like especially a school with a lot of locations, or like a community college where they've got, 16 different locations. I'll go to their history page, and if I know the gunsmithing thing is in building Lassiter or something, I'll go through the history and it'll say acquired the Lassiter building in like 1990. So I'm like, well, they probably weren't gunsmithing if they didn't even own the building, right? So then I figure, okay, it's probably 90. And then if I can't find anything else, I'll kind of put that in as a tentative. And I think that's what I came up with Penn Foster. So I don't remember, because I've just been doing a lot of this. It's all a blur right now, but it was something like that. And if I didn't know the date, I didn't put, an actual note in here, but it looks like I set it to be 1998. I'm guessing that's at some point, my guess, when they started. But you guys are talking about knowing the guy, or at least the guy that started the whole thing is still there. When you get to these, it's way different. So, and again, 1990 or something, right? Now you get to SDI, and everybody's heard of this one, right? Because of YouTube and everything.
Sonoran Desert Institute.
Right? And then this new one, Modern Gun School, which I don't know if it's just me or not, but when you look at them all together in a pile, here's MSC, super, what do you call, like, well, with a good reputation or whatever, well-earned reputation from, like, when did Murray start? 1979. And then you got this one that has, you know, of all the logos they could go with, I thought that was pretty close to that one. Anyway, so you get these two distance learning ones. And you guys all know the story of SDI.
Not particularly.
Yeah, I don't either. I just know that they've been all around. But if you listen to them, they say they've been around since 1921, right? 1921. So if you go look, it's like some guy in 1921 started a school for sure in like Minnesota or somewhere, and he started this like correspondence school, obviously with just paper back in the day. And then at some point it was bought out by somebody else and somebody else. And then all of a sudden in 2000, SDI is there. And it's, again, that's sort of determined by, you know, looking at when they started talking about stuff, or when they say they existed, I think, because I think there's three places where they say they started in 1921, they started in 2000, they started in 2004. But then if you go look, you know, they kind of really start in 2015. You know, that's when you first start seeing them hit the scene or something. So it's a set of instruction that I guess comes from the books that the guy wrote in 1921, but I don't know. And I don't know anybody that's done it, but it's definitely correspondence, right? It's somehow books that have been supplemented or whatever, enhanced with video. And then the dude that was doing that isn't there anymore. And now you get MGS, which is Modern Gun School. And it says it was founded in 1946. And the first thing you see about it is like 2019.
45.
So, yeah, so I don't know what the story is there, but there's like, oh, we're started in 1946, big pause. And then here we are in 2018 with this school with a curriculum. So I don't know what to, you know, it's tough to know what the deal is with that. So that's where we're at. And then you get Black River, which if you look at the website, I think it's just right on their main website. They talk about their story. Basically, maybe I read an article. I think I read an article from the local town's newspaper or something, and they were saying, there's a bunch of gun industry around here, and there's no gunsmithing schools. Why don't we have a gunsmithing school? And then the next thing you see is the governor or somebody who had, you know, was in charge of the school approves however many dollars, and they're starting a gunsmithing curriculum, which is cool. I think it's not that hard, right? I mean, if you're even, because this will be a, you know, brick and mortar, whatever, like where people show up and go to school there. Those are usually like part of the other stuff, like if they're doing some other kind of machinery type of trades, right? So it's not like they, I don't know, if they've already got some machinery stuff, all you got to do is add on to it or use things when it's not being used by something else, perhaps. All right, well, the other day it took 2 hours to dig through whatever we were digging through. I think that was the shooting ranges. So this one took a lot less, but there's only 17 of them. But if anybody knows about others, let me know. I'd add them for sure. But it looks like this is the community college level, the specific, you know, gunsmith school, and the remote learning type, distance learning. What did you guys? The other thing is cost, I guess. So I was going to go through and I got them in order of chronological. So I got them in order when they came to be, and then you can kind of tell where they're from by the names of a lot of them. But then the size of the place for most of them, you know, except for the mail orders, the size of the place would be one, and then the type or maybe the focus of instruction, because I think some of them are more, let's get you a job in the trade, and others are like, let's teach you everything you might ever possibly want to know and how to run a business. Because some of them are definitely not like they're how to be a gunsmith. Others are how to run a gunsmithing business. And there's like there's classes on taxes and, you know, all the other things, marketing and stuff that you need to know to run a business. So, you know, somebody with a different focus would go to these different schools. Class size was another. Oh, and then you guys are mentioning that yours was 50 videos. And some of them seem to be marked, especially the distance learning ones, seem to be marketed, but even some of the others, depending on how they're structured, some of them are like units of blocks. Like, we're always going to have the lab open and you work on whatever block you want. So some of them are like you guys, where you watch 50 videos and you're done. Well, some of them are do a certain amount of things and you're done. So if you're fast, or if you come in twice as often, you can be quicker. Where others are, you know, you're coming in at 6 in the morning or whatever, you're leaving at 3 in the afternoon, but that's it. Like, you can't come in twice. You can't do twice as much. Like, if it says 14 months, it's going to be 14 months. If it says 6 months, it'll be 6 months. Where others of these, it's based on how fast you are. So if you want to get a degree quick, then some of these are be more appealing, because they're going to allow you to burn through it as fast as you can and not at some predetermined pace with everybody else for whatever reason.
Yeah, I think Penn Foster advertised a minimum of 16 weeks. So you could take, I think it was up to a year to complete the course, but the minimum you could do it in was 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And that would be useful for somebody who's like, I need to get a decent gig because I got a kid on the way, or I just bought a 9mm I can't keep fed or whatever. And, you know, you need to get a return on your investment. Right? Like, if I'm going to spend, and that's the other thing, is we're going to talk about how much these things cost, but if you're going to spend what, $1,000-ish, usually $1,000, I want to be able to start getting a job so I can start paying back that $1,000, start making some money.
Yeah, I think when I attended, I think it was like $800. But there were some nice little extras that came in there, because in addition to the books that they would send you just for your class materials, some of those class materials involved being able to use like the gun values book and look up what a firearm's worth. But not only are you looking up what the firearm's worth, you're figuring out exactly what firearm they're talking about, because they gave you X barrel length with this marking on it, and then you'll be able to go in there and say, oh, well, this isn't just a Model 31 Remington shotgun. We're talking about a Model 31F, and then that's this value. So it came with things like the gun values book. It came with pistol smithing book. There's one for rifle and shotguns. I believe those ones are actual NRA books. When I looked at the back ones, I think they are like $40 a piece if you're going to purchase them on your own. But so some of those extra books that they sent you in the mail, if you're going to go out and purchase those on your own, were $100-some otherwise. So you got a little bit return right there with just some of those materials, not counting, like I said, all the classroom work that they would send you. I don't know about you, Night Strike. Did they send you any gunsmithing tools?
They didn't send any gunsmithing tools, but I got those NRA books. I even got the Lyman book to reloading as well.
Yep. Is it true that Night Strike just hacked into their system to take the classes for free?
No, I actually paid. I didn't pay $800. I paid about $600.
Oh, see,
so
crap.
So that's how much I paid, but I did get through the courses. I did go through all the curriculum. I did pass my tests, and I did get my diploma. So, you know, yes, I may have made mistakes personally with my own firearms, but I was competent enough to actually pass the curriculum.
I'm planning on making a series of videos for the big YouTube channel, and what I'm going to do is enroll in these different distance learning schools, but I'm just going to war game it. I'm going to break into their system and hack myself an A on all of them.
And Night Strike.
Good luck.
I'm going to use a modem.
So Night Strike, you probably could have gotten some tools out of them. When I was looking into the program, I had called them, spoke to somebody, and I asked them, do you get any tools? Will I be doing any actual hands-on work at home? Am I going to have to purchase my own firearms to work on, things like that? And it said, no, we don't do any of that. But he said he doesn't think they sent out tools anymore. They used to, but he said a lot of the places that were taking their curriculum were already gun shop owners that had tools. They just needed the know-how.
Yeah.
And he said, if you ever find anything that says that we do, call them back and say, hey, this thing says that you're supposed to send me tools. And he said, we'll make sure that we get some tools sent out to you. And one of the curriculums towards the end, it actually mentions that you're supposed to get a set of tools in the classwork book, and they might have changed that after this. But so I called on.
I think they changed it after, because I didn't get any tools. I got tons of great books that I still use today, and I got I had a whole curriculum on the modern sporting rifle, the AR-15, and the thing is, I already had all the tools for an AR-15s, so it wasn't that I was lacking in tools. I was lacking in knowledge, and that's why I was taking the course.
Well, and the tools they send you, they're nothing special. I mean, you go buy a $15 punch set off of Amazon, that's what you're getting from them. Ball peen hammer from Harbor Freight, a pair of Pittsburgh orange-handled needle nose. It's not like they were any tools that were super amazing or anything, but since I had found that in the curriculum, like I said, I called them up, said, hey, I found this. And they're like, all right. And it was like a week later, I had a Husky toolbox with all these tools in it. There's some Allen wrenches and Torx wrenches and things like that, which were pretty cool. But it wasn't anything super special or anything. I just wasn't sure if they had changed that again or not, or if they were like, well, now that somebody found that, we're taking that out because we don't want to give them any tools.
Yeah, they stopped doing that after I did. So.
Well, but back in the day, that was part of the
curriculum. I got it.
Well, I mean, that was when you'd see the ads in the magazines and stuff. You'd see like the toolbox, all the tools spilled out. That was probably handy if you were living somewhere where you didn't have access to a store. You could go buy that stuff at. There was no online back then. There was a time when you couldn't just go to Amazon and buy anything and have it delivered. So, well, you guys were continuing to talk about the experience at Penn Foster and the cost or whatever. So, without needing the tools and doing the stuff online, I'm assuming then it wasn't like one of the tests was make a 1911 and send us pictures, and that was your online test. It was more like, I don't know, like what color is the slide on something, and you'd fill in the blank, and then what year was this made, like a test where you could answer questions.
It was more like name all the parts in a 1911. Name this trivia bit about the 1911 and that trivia bit. Stuff like that.
That's definitely one, and that's a distance learning. So they're going to have their characteristics or whatever. One of the things that you look at with some of these, like I'm here in Arizona, so every once in a while, hanging out at the gun shop, there'd be someone going to Yavapai and up in Prescott, and that school, I don't know where they rank. I know they've been around for a while, but I don't know enough yet to know like in what order these things should be as far as like their competence or their prestige or whatever the words are. So, but I do know a lot of people that go there and are super satisfied with their degree and whatever, take it super seriously. It's not cheap. It's a 2-year more degree. So they go live there for a while usually and study or whatever. But anyway, when they go to it, they're told like bring, and I forget the list, but it's not little. It's like bring basically a bunch of broken guns. And it's like a lever action, a bolt action, a pump action, a Derringer. It's like a whole bunch of guns. And the idea is most people get them for nothing. Like you go to a gun shop and ask around, and especially if you say, I'm about to go to Gunsmith in college, do you got any old guns I can buy? Trust me, I can't imagine you're going to go to too many gun shops before somebody's going to go, sure, here, kid, like grab some out of this bucket, give me $20, or just take them, because they're broken and they accumulate and nobody really cares. And everybody wants more gunsmiths, and you need broken guns. So there's tons of them. So anyway, so I know that some schools are like that, right? At least you have to buy. But others kind of, I don't want to say brag, but others will make sure that you know that you're going to make, like, I forget now, because like I said, it's all kind of a mush now, but I know a couple of them in there were like, you're going to make one rifle. A couple of them said you're going to make a 1911. And I think one of them was like, you're going to make 3 rifles and a 1911. And, you know, that's a big difference between doing it, I don't know, bringing in broken guns and coming out with fixed broken guns versus, I imagine it costs a lot more, but, you know, walking away with a new rifle. There's a couple, I didn't put them here under gunsmithing schools, but there's a couple of shooting schools, especially long distance. Well, there are a couple of long distance shooting schools where you show up and you leave with a new gun. Like part of their instruction on how to shoot well is how to build a gun to shoot well. So you build a gun. And I think the deal is you either go there, build the gun and learn, and then leave, and that's one price, or you go there, build the gun and leave with the gun you built, and that's another price. But, you know, there's that concept of let's get you the skills, but like the hands-on or whatever, you're going to leave here with a gun that you built. And it must be Yappaby, because I know some people who, you know, will show me, like, here's the gun I built in school. And it's, you know, they look like student guns. Like, it's every single thing you can do to a gun done to the same gun. Like, you know, because they were trying to do everything they learned how to do at once on the same gun. You know, they look neat, but they look, you know, like somebody who's learning, but then also like just crammed, you know, they look almost like a, you know, it's like there's too much going on. Like, add every single artsy thing or things that they learned how to do in school to this one gun. All right, well, did we talk out gunsmithing schools? Is that it? There's only 17 of them. I figured we talked for at least 17 hours when I talked for one. So it's like 1/17 as much effort as I thought we were going to get into it. But that's all we got, I guess. I did see moves out there, but there are at least 7 other lurkers lurking.
So SDI, Sonoran Desert Institute, they're supposed to be pretty awesome. Back when I was actually looking at Penn Foster, I kicked around actually going out to their school, but it just didn't seem feasible to me, so I didn't. But I think they have a pretty good reputation, and from what I had researched, pretty good curriculum all around. I wish I would have found out about the one down in Pittsburgh for the Pennsylvania gunsmithing school when I was looking into Penn Foster, because I would have done that one since it was hands-on, but I had no idea it existed until like a year or two later.
So that's a 16th month one, and they specifically do not offer any kind of correspondence. I don't have any info, but I get the impression that they're not little. Most everything I've ever heard, they talk about that gunsmithing school. I've definitely seen some videos on it. Now, before, Clover was in here, and he dropped a link to one of his videos where he was chatting with the gunsmith. Let's see, had the head guy on from their gunsmithing school. So it's a community college, and I don't know nothing else about it except for what I researched or whatever. So it's a community college. They started in 1967. Do all this different stuff, and stuff happens or whatever until you get to, let's see, 1983. So I'm guessing somewhere in here is when, and this is a guess, so I'll have to listen to his interview and maybe he'll make it more specific for me. But I figure somewhere in here is when it became technical, is when they probably started the gunsmithing. But when you start looking at their gunsmithing stuff, they got the degree, diploma, or certificate, which is about as much as any of them are going to do. Some of them will just do certificates or diplomas, right? And then fewer, only a couple will do degrees, which is, you know, multi-year degrees. You walk away with a degree in gunsmithing. A diploma is less time, and a certificate is hours usually. So anyway, blah blah blah. Here's the students build 3 custom rifles and a custom 1911, right? And then we'll talk about this in a second. There's these NRA affiliated gunsmithing schools. There's only 4 of them, and it's one of them, which are mini gunsmithing. We'll talk about that in a second. But then this one I thought was pretty cool. And this was not actually, it took me a minute to figure all this out because they didn't brag about it very good. They got a woodsmithing shop, the woodworking shop, and a welding shop. They got 2 machine shops with 13 milling machines. And that's not little. 23 high-speed metal lathes. And then they got a bunch of surface grinders and pedestal grinders stuff. So, I mean, that's a machine shop that's a school, right? It's not like everybody's milling around one mill, right? Everybody's got their own stuff. I don't know if Erstwhile is still out here. He could give us some insight, some of this, but got a 5-position outdoor range, which not all of them have a range for sure. And I believe it's this one that says, oh yeah, and if you want to use that range, feel free. It's like X amount of dollars. So like it's available to the school as just a shooting range when they're not using it as their gunsmithing range. They got the Midway USA Arms Room, which is a comprehensive up-to-date firearms inventory. So they've got a vault full of guns. And how cool would that be as a student to be able to walk in and just have a bunch of guns to fiddle with, right? I mean, that seems amazing, and I like that whole idea. The Virginia Military Institute, I think, VMI, has a museum that is part of the school. I think it's Virginia Military Institute, something like that. So I would go to it, but I'm afraid of TAPS. I've seen the movie TAPS, so I refuse to go to any military schools. And then they got some kind of Brownells labs, which I don't know what it is, but I'm sure they spent a lot of money. Brownells and Midways are fighting with each other. There's money being spent. So that's in North Carolina. Another reason the North is the better of the Carolinas, from everything I've been told.
Yeah.
I'm just going by what I've been told. And then that was the one that Clover did a interview with. That was Murray, but I have no idea. I mean, that was the other one with the name, Montgomery. But I have no idea what's going on with Pennsylvania. They're older, and they just don't have any pictures or know anybody that's gone there. So I'm not sure how big they are. But look how big that picture is. We're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 4 or 5 stations. If that's times, well, even if it isn't times 2, that's a pretty big classroom right there. Bigger than any high school classroom I ever had.
If you want more information on the Pennsylvania Gunsmith School, I know several of my local shops, their gunsmiths have actually attended that school, so I could dig up some information if you want.
Yep, I don't know. Mainly, I would be curious. It says they're founded in '49, so we got that. I mean, the information I'm looking for is not going to be probably off the top of their heads unless they got some kind of brochure or something. But like I say, what I'm going to start to do if I work on this, I mean, this was really an effort to get the 50 States of 2A book complete, to add every element I can to it. So knowing what gunsmith schools there are is important, and then knowing where they are is handy. Having the date that they started is probably enough because I'm not getting paid by them. I'm just trying to add interesting insight to the community, right? To let us know. People might not know that there's 17, guns or 17 schools out there in the country, pretty much except for North Carolina, which seems to have like 3 or 4 of them, spread out all over. But I don't have all the time in the world or all that much interest, honestly, to go in and research every single one of them. But if it gives somebody an idea of something to do on their channel, it's obviously worth it. I mean, Clover put a video over here talking about Montgomery, which is going to be useful for me however many months later. I remember him doing that one, and this has been here waiting to be done, but until the book came out to push me to do this, I haven't needed his video, right? So you never know if you add something to the conversation, add something to the internet, when somebody's going to be able to use it. So anyway, I don't know if there are more. I'll find out. But yeah, if you want to, I guess what I was getting at is the only things I'm missing are like how big the place is, how many square feet. Maybe just doing an interview with somebody and trying to poke around with as much info about like where it came from or why it's so good. But it's not the 50 states of gunsmithing schools. It's just one element. I'll be going on to the next thing and then the next thing and the next thing to complete the book. But I'd be probably at this point, at least until I have a chance to delve deeper into the schools, would be to make sure I have all the schools. So that would be the other thing, is finding out, especially from somebody who's gone to a school like y'all, you would be more aware than anybody what your choices were, right? If I only got 2 of your 3 choices out here, right away you're going to know I'm missing one, right? Compared to somebody who who's never looked for a gunsmithing school ever, would only know a gunsmithing school that tried to market to them or tried to appeal to their curiosity or something.
Well, that's the thing. Like with Penn Foster, I had seen an ad on the Outdoor Channel for the gunsmithing program. Then I found a little tear out in a magazine, and I was like, all right, cool. Because the Pennsylvania Gunsmith School, it's an hour and a half from me. And like I said, that would have been a hands-on school where I went in and I came out with a finished firearm when I was done, with the way I'm to understand it. And I had no idea it existed until after I was already done with the Penn Foster program.
So just to double check, this wasn't a situation where you went over to Night Strike's house, you went up to his room, and he was connected to Penn Foster's thing through a modem, and then while you're sitting there on the bed, he gave you an A in the class or whatever?
No, he came to my place because I attended it first. Then he just kind of jacked my books, and I tried to get him to give me a discount on GunTube, and he said no. And turns out he's just a really good negotiator, and I'm terrible.
Yeah, that's exactly how it went.
But when I was looking at the people that started AGI, a lot of them went to multiple schools. So there's definitely nothing stopping you. It's not like it's not like internet school. Once you've gone to internet school, you never need to go back to internet school because the internet stays the same all the time.
It doesn't.
Gunsmithing,
Absolutely.
gunsmithing stuff, people go to multiple schools because, like I say, some of them are probably like, probably some of them are like, here's how you blue. And then other ones are like, here's 1,000 different recipes for bluing. And here's 16 different ways of doing it. And you're going to choose 3 of them. Or, some of them are probably like, here's a stock and how to fit it right. And then other ones are like, how many hours do you want to spend carving this stock, right? They all got to have their different abilities and flavors, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure because I think from what I've looked into, a lot of them are just a very general overview, and you'll be able to build a firearm when you're done. But as far as specialization, there's so many different things you can actually specialize in with firearms. I don't know of too many that are doing any of those specializations. Maybe that's something they should do after you complete the main course is say, hey, now do you have more interest in bluing? Do you have more interest in stock building? Do you have interest in checkering? Do you have interest in engraving? And offer more specialized classes after you complete the main program.
Yeah, I don't even know. As I was trying to accumulate them, I wasn't even sure how many there are. So I don't know if I have them all or not. So trying to first accumulate them, I didn't even, as I encountered them, like I say, some of them talk about how old they are. Some of them talk about how big they are. Some of them talk about how fast your degree is. Some of them, do the other. Some of them talk about how long you're going to be in school or whatever. Some of them are weird. Some of them were like, oh, here's our gunsmithing school. Just so you know, you got to pass a background check and you got to have a CCW or you got to be prior. It's like, what are you doing all this right off the bat? Like, that seems weird. So maybe it's just the states that they're in or something. But yeah, I don't know. That would be, again, something to add nuance. Now, the neat thing is, I'm going back to the screen here. So I'm looking at the page on Gun Shop Guide. It's WordPress. I build everything in, well, most everything in WordPress because it's very simple and strong way to do it. It's a bunch of pages, or it's a bunch of pages, I guess, that organize posts. Or I guess I should have said it. It's posts that are organized by pages. So what we're looking at is a page here that is displaying a bunch of different images, and each of those images represents a post that's about, whatever it is, at school or whatever. So one of the neat things is I can go to edit this page, and now we're seeing the backside of it, right? And what was, I'm going to go just open them next to each other here, I guess, because I have the power to do that. What on the left side now looks like, colors and shapes and images and things. On the right side is the behind the scenes. So this whole first piece, this display that's 4 by 5 or whatever, those 20 something things, is all summarized by this little snippet. And then there's a little line right here, and that's the little line right here. And then there's another little snippet, and that snippet displays that same set of data from the database in a different way visually, so that it's displayed in a big long line and it gives you a little bit more information about everything. And then there's a little line, and then it says Trinidad Gunsmithing School for whatever reason. So, there's this stuff you can play with here. So when I open up like Colorado School of the Trades, I've got things in here like Gunsmithing School in Colorado. I could add something like, I don't know, like if they do stock work or if they do machinery or metalworking or something, whatever they're famous for. I could add those as tags and then start to filter, so pull out from the database just the ones like this. It has Colorado as a tag. I can click on that, and everything from Colorado is being displayed. So there's a gun shop there, there's a range, there's USA Shooting, the Olympic stuff, there's Dragon Man's, everything from Colorado. Trinidad Gunsmithing School, Colorado School of Trades. So that's one way to display, but then you can sort. So I could create a page that pulls everything from Colorado, but then, or maybe everything from gunsmithing schools, but then sorts them by how many square feet, or sorts them by what year they were established, or maybe it sorts them by how many students. So it looks like this particular one, Colorado School of Trades, that's been around since 1947, can have up to 160 students. Like there's others that kind of brag that there's only 22 students. Like there can only be 30 students at some of these classes, and they will stop registering kids. Like they're only going to let so many people come through. I forget which one it was now, but one of them, I think they said they have new like classes starting every second Wednesday or something. It's like every other Wednesday, a new group starts, and then they do 15 weeks and then another group starts. So like, in other words, you can kind of, it's like a merry-go-round or an escalator. You just jump on, and I kind of got the impression you jump on for as long as you need to, and then jump on to the, if you need to jump off, jump on the next time around. So I talked about earlier when I was letting the little puppy outside earlier, it's nighttime, but I had a flashlight. This thing was running around the ground. So it's a snake, I'm pretty sure, but it looks like a little worm, huh? So he was climbing all around while she was going potty and stuff. So then I came back in here and got my camera, and by the time I came in and got my camera, he found what he was looking for. He was looking for some soft ground, and he went down into this. He found a place that he could scurry into, and I'll show you here in a second. So this is a giant anthill out there, and that's the current hole to the anthill. But everywhere around here, you know, they keep moving the hole to get in. It's all just a giant anthill, really. So I'm guessing this guy comes out at night. He kept like poking around. He kept like lifting his whole body up. I don't know if there's a way to mute that, but he kept like shoving his head, and like his whole body would lift up to give him force. So evidently he knows that ants will kind of cave in their own holes every once in a while. He goes and looks for those, I guess. I don't know. I have to go research this thing, but I'm guessing he just found an ant hole, went in there, and started chowing down on ants, right?
Probably.
But he's pretty cool. He's about as long as a shoelace. Like he's long, and I mean, I guess that maybe not that long. Maybe half of a shoelace, but you know, fairly long for a little snake or whatever.
So you discovered an anteater snake.
No, he definitely is a nocturnal. So I went out there, and I don't normally take the light out in my own backyard, but I move things around, and she's being weird. So I brought the light out there, and I turned it on, and it scared the crap out of me because there's this snake. I'm like, what the hell? But he's a little tiny, skinny snake. So I'm like, what? And then I looked at him, and I can't remember for the life of me. These were something that I remember seeing in a book as a kid, but I lived where these things didn't. So I've seen them a couple of times out here. I didn't grow up with them, so I don't remember what they are. I think they're called legless lizards, right? They're not really a snake, but they look like an earthworm, or else they're a snake and they're not really an earthworm. I forget, but they definitely look like an earthworm. He's super pink, almost purple or whatever. Pink snake. It looks like this, huh? Thread snake, maybe? Is that what it looks like? Oh yeah, definitely, right? Baby thread snake. Oh yeah, definitely a western thread snake. So it's a western thread snake. And he definitely squiggled around like this. Let's find out what's there so good about him. So he is a snake. It's not something stupid. And like a amphibian. It's got them little tiny eyes like that. Up to 15 inches in length. This guy was 12 inches if he was anything. So I don't think he was 15. Relatively thin, pink, gray, or mauve. I don't know. You can decide if he was mauve or not. Resembles a shiny earthworm, definitely, except he can move. It's like a shiny earthworm on crack or something. Both the head and the tail are rounded. The head is not distinct from the neck. That's true. He looks like he's just some weird worm or something. Eyes are underneath the scales. I actually did not even see the eyes on this guy. The only way you know which side is his head when he was crawling around is because he moves in that direction. But his butt and his head looked exactly the same to me.
Huh.
The eyes are vegetable. Well, their eyes are kind of inside anyway. Let's see. But I'm guessing it's because he's so nocturnal or what. He did not like my flashlight at all. As soon as I turned on the flashlight, he tried to look. So I had to shine the flashlight like parallel to the ground, like, you know, so that I could barely see him. But he thought that the light wasn't shining on him anymore. Let's see. Unlike most of our snakes, the belly scales are not enlarged, and that's true too. He has the same scales all around, which is weird. Small spine protrudes from the end of the tail. I don't know about that because he has too small of a tail. There are no teeth in the upper jaw, only a few teeth in the lower jaw. The snake has only one scale between his eyes, I guess. Distinguishing him from a New Mexico thread snake. Oh, snap. What did I have? Well, I can't tell because my video starts and his head's already in the ground. I could just as easily have had a New Mexico thread snake. That one looks a little dirtier. Our Arizona snake looks a lot cleaner than this dirty New Mexico thread snake. So close that. The snake is found across western and southwestern Arizona. Check. That's where I'm at. Elevations ranging from sea level to 5,000 feet. I'm in that range.
You are
Desert
indeed.
scrub. I live in desert scrub. I don't like how it's referring to my area as scrub, but whatever. Interior chaparral. Yeah, that's what I got going on here. It is usually found below steep mountain terrain on bahajadas in foothills. So I don't live on a bahajada, but whatever.
Wait. Is there a small hill in your backyard?
No, I don't. I live on top of a hill. I don't believe in living on the side of hills. Primarily nocturnal and crepuscular. Active at dawn or dusk, or usually both. That's a new one. So crepuscular, C-R-E-P, so like muscular creep. Crepuscular is when you're on the edges. It spends the majority of its time burrowed underground, which I imagine. It's encountered on the surface crossing railroads. Oh, I don't have a roadway. Interesting. It hibernates during the cold months, whatever. When captured, it has a fit, so that's why I don't touch stuff. Here's another thing. Whenever you touch stuff in the desert, it usually pees, either out of defense or scared or whatever, and that's like a total douchebag move. So don't touch nothing out here. Let it be, because it might take like a tortoise like 8 months to store up some water, and you go over and fuck with it, and it pees. You might as well have killed that tortoise. So don't be a dick. Don't touch stuff out here.
There's also Gila monsters. You don't touch those on principle.
Well, because they're endangered. So yeah, you wouldn't want to touch stuff that's endangered.
They're also poisonous.
The western thread snake forages underground for ants, termites, or other small insects. So here's the deal. I'm at war with these fucking ants in my backyard. So normally I don't give a fuck. Ants can go live their life, right? Who cares about ants, right? So I'm out there, and here's the thing. They have this giant area in my backyard anyway, because they're a bunch of jerks and they just stole it. But I'm fascinated. I'll go out and take the dog out, and one day they're over here. And then for whatever reason, they're like, screw that hole, now we're using this hole. And it'll be like 6 feet in another direction, and that's their big hole, you know? And the other day, well, maybe earlier this year, I never really pay attention to them, and then every once in a while you look down and they're doing something interesting. So there's this one kind of grass or plant or whatever that has this little Barbie thing, and I normally didn't ever think about it until I got this dog who's like a magnet for these little things. So now I notice that they're in my backyard where I normally never even paid attention. They're just like a weird seed from this grass, you know, and if in the right time and if it's just dried the right way, it can kind of be a poke, but it's not as bad as any other kind of thorn. So I never even thought about it before. Anyway, so they're on my radar now that I got this fluffy dog who attracts them. But I noticed that the ants were taking the things in question here, these little kind of half-barb little, they're like the 9mm of barbs. They're like a BB gun of a barb, right? They're not really a barb, but they're technically a barb. Anyway, these ants were taking them in to their like hole, and they have like a big giant hole that they're taking stuff in. It's like an ant highway. It's like 8 ants wide or some shit, like a way bigger hole than they need, right? Big giant hole. And they're taking in these things, but then they're also taking them out. So they're eating pieces out of it, I guess, and then taking the rest out. So there are a bunch of like rocks around their hole is like 50% rocks and 50% these things. And I've been paying attention because that was like, oh, I never paid attention to this before. These guys are eating these little things, half of them, and then they're using the other half. Well, basically they're just dumping the other half, and it's becoming a part of their little room, like their little area here. Anyhow, so that's my whole like life with these damn ants, right? So I'm out there the other day minding my damn business, and some ant comes over and freaking bites me on the foot. You ever been bit by an ant before? Anybody?
Bitten by ants? Yes, many times.
Yeah, like a motherfucker.
Yep.
And it hurt me. I thought I was going to have to call the freaking ambulance or some shit for a minute. I'm like, what the hell? My foot's going numb after getting bit by one freaking ant. So I'm taking them out. Like these ants are going down. So I've been already waging war on them a little bit. And I go out there today. There's this awesome snake wailing on them. So I'm super happy. So do on them damn ants. I'm going to let that snake thrive out there. I was halfway thinking Oh, I should scoop it because the snake was probing. He's looking around for them ants. I could tell, but he couldn't tell that he was nowhere near him. He was like 3 feet away from these ants. I was going to pick him up and just drop him right into the ants, but I figured that might be a douche move. It might be his strategy to eat one ant at a time and not have like a million ants kill him, right? So I didn't do nothing. But then I came in to get the camera, went back out, boom, he was going straight for those ants. So I'm super happy. I hope I have like 16 of them thread snakes out there. Let's see what I can do to make these thread snakes happy. Let's see. He'll also eat centipedes and spiders. So I got black widows everywhere. We always do. But they leave me alone. I leave them alone. They're pretty cool. I doubt this little snake's going to have anything to do with the black widow. He's probably eating those kind of spiders. What do we call them? There's some kind of spider that like basically goes down an old abandoned hole from something else. Loafer. Yeah, wolf spider. And he'll make like a funnel. And that's probably what these snakes are eating because they're on the ground. Let's see. Mating probably takes place in spring. I didn't see him do anything weird like that. 8 eggs. Interesting. So I hope that there's some living out in my backyard. Start taking out these damn ants.
I think you need to get some AK patches made, put them on the snakes, and let them just go full Red Dawn on these communist ants that have occupied your backyard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Those ants have been there for a while, but they just decided to start getting ornery, I guess. You can kind of tell what the ground is like. It's just this, it's not really sand. It's bigger than sand, but it's not, it's still sand-ish. It's not dirt. And, they can't move every rock, but you can see what they're doing here. They, I paused it on the ants. They'll open up a hole, probably as big as that snake, and go in and out of it for a few days, and then maybe this snake comes and attacks them, and that's why they kill the hole. I don't know. Now I kind of want to put a what do you call it? Web game camera out there and see if I can't see what kind of craziness battles are happening in my backyard at night. When I was a little kid, I would have loved to have something like that in a, as a pet, like in some kind of a fish tank type of thing. And I had lizards and stuff. I never really got into snakes. They were just, I could have got them, but I had friends that had them. They were like fish. They were a little bit too much work for me. I'd like to go camping for weeks at a time. And they're okay, but like they're just too much. So I never really had snakes. I had one maybe, but now I don't need to do nothing. I can just go outside. I was over at a friend's house and we were sitting there for a long time just watching lizards that are about, I don't know, way big enough to see, like 8 inches long, maybe 10 inches long with their tails, kind of hanging out on the wall. Imagine at night with one light on next to a door, whatever you call it, like a porch light or whatever. Just a little shitty light, barely enough so you don't trip on the stairs type of thing. So it's not lighting up the whole neighborhood or anything. But that's attracting moths. And every once in a while, a dumbass moth will land on the wall. And then these little lizards, these geckos, will run over and wail on it. And it's basically a dude and his 2 chicks. So they're not really in competition. So they're not really, I guess they're helping each other. But, they're taking turns. They don't really fight. But every once in a while, they sing at each other. Yeah, it's amazing. It's way better than any kind of fish tank or anything. So we got all kinds of them. We can get horny toads and Gila monsters and stuff, but that would be much more rare coming up to a house or something. You can see that kind of stuff going on in the desert. All right, well, so that's a little bit of snake action for free. And I don't know, I do have the little tiny camera I bought. But the problem is that little tiny cameras don't. Maybe they do. Shit, it's supposed to be like a body cam. I'm gonna have to go find out if I can figure out some kind of directions. It's the kind of thing you buy at the grocery store as a impulse buy for $5. So it's very inexpensive, but it's a tiny little GoPro-ish type of thing. but I think they're calling it a body cam. So I think if I remember now that I'm thinking about it, it might have a what do they call that? Where it's got a motion sensor, so it only records when the motion sensor goes off. And it's so little, I bet you I could put this thing on a little tiny tripod out there. And it is got the LED, or what do you call IR LEDs on it, so it can run in the night. So maybe I'll have some cool ant destruction stuff happening. If I had sand instead of this rocky shit I have, I know they have they have to have massive systems going on under there just from the amount of ants. And like I say, I don't think they're digging new holes. I think it's a big system and they just decide to move their hole to the outside every once in a while. So I think this thing is probably like, I don't know what they look like. I think they look like a tree, right? Like they have a bunch of branches that go down to the center. I don't really know. But I'm guessing it's about 6 feet around technically or whatever. Like they've got branches going out that far. So you ever seen them things where you pour metal, like liquid something down a ant hill or ant hole?
Oh yeah, I've seen those. Those are awesome.
Yeah, I'd love to do that, like aluminum, I guess. But I don't have the kind. It's not sand, It would be like digging it out of rock for the most part. It would be like a real pain in the ass. But if I had like a beach or something, I would definitely be doing that to these ants.
Yeah.
All right, well, now we've talked about killing ants and we talked about going to gun college. So,
And moved on.
Well, a little bit. All right, well, so with that, I guess we're going to wrap it up. You guys got anything you want to plug on the way out?
No.
All right, well, I'm going to quit doing that because that turns my screen all goofy. So I will say thanks for joining us and we'll back to pick you up later.
Bye, everyone.